Pokémon do not have genders. The English games have it all wrong. Unknown to many, Pokémon do not actually have a gender. Yes, there are male and female Pokémon, but there are no genders. By now you're probably thinking, WTF is this guy on? But hold on tight and let me explain. Biologically speaking, males and females are classified based on chromosomes. For example, us humans, most mammals, some insects, and plants classify our, quote, genders based on two things, an X and Y chromosome. Let's take a look at the basics of humans. If you have two X chromosomes, you are genetically and physically female. If you have an X and Y chromosome, you are genetically and physically male. That is to say, a person's sex is based on their chromosomes. In a quick summary, Pokémon should have sex classifications, not genders, which may leave you wondering what gender is. Gender is a social construction of what it means to be a certain sex. This is seen in such social constructions of gender roles. An example of this would be the idea that men are doctors while women are nurses, or that young boys play with trucks while young girls play with dolls.
Play with me.
There is nothing wrong with either sex playing with either toy, but it is society that puts these expectations on us. Heck, even something as simple as colors are now gendered, where boys should like blue and girls should like pink. In some instances, Game Freak has stuck true to these gender roles. For example, you know how a Pikachu can wear a dress in Pokemon contests and battles in Oras? Well, this is exclusive to female Pikachus only. A male Pikachu may not wear a dress. Also, in the customization of Pokemon X and Y, Game Freak is strict in gender roles, and that it forces players to dress appropriate to their designated gender. To be fair, I should mention an instance of the opposite too. A Machoke can be female, and the body structure does not change, showing that both males and females could be bodybuilders. Good on you, Game Freak. By now you're either thinking, this guy spent too much time on Tumblr, or you're beginning to see the sociological implications of gender versus sex. Need more proof? Look at the term sexism. What do you call it when a male gets a privilege over a female based on the single factor of being a male or female alone? That's right, sexism, not genderism. Very quickly, since we're on the topic, according to many theorists, here is how we differentiate between gender identity, expression, sex, and sexuality. If you want more info, there is a link in the description, but let's get back to Pokemon. In the game, it's called gender, which would imply that the Pokemon have decided to label themselves as said gender, or based on normativity, they by default stick with their assigned gender from their sex. But note in the Japanese games, it's not called gender at all, but rather that Japanese word for sex, subitsu, which is used to define one's biological sex. The idea of Pokemon having sexes based on their chromosomes and physical characteristics makes a lot more sense than them having socially constructed genders, but this is not to say it isn't a possibility. Let's keep in mind that this is just a fictional creation where the world clearly does not work the same as our own. And since we're on the topic of Pokemon and gender, let's dive into some fun facts about it. Nidoran male and female are the only Pokemon with the same name that has two sexes which evolve into two different lines and have Pokedex numbers and entries for both variations. No other Pokemon have this unique feature. Meowstic is the only Pokemon whose sex difference is not just purely visual, although one of the most visual I may add. The difference between the two leveling up is that the male Meowstic tends to be more of a technician, using Pokemon, whereas the female is more of a focus on offense. Well known by now, but worth mentioning, Azurill can change sexes upon evolving into Marill. This perhaps was a mistake in the gender-ration programming. 75% of Azurill are female, 50% of Marill are male, and with that difference in numbers, leaves a 25% chance of Azurill to change sex upon evolving. This possible mistake was later changed in Generation 6, however the gender ratios of Marill and Azurill remain the same. Well, hopefully that clarifies the difference between sex and gender. This has been Lucky Sean for BulbaTube, signing out.